This is from Anadolu and Janzi. African intellectuals remember late Muammar Gaddafi as Pan-African. Gaddafi had a strong vision of uniting the continent to be self-reliant.
African intellectuals Wednesday remembered late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, who was killed on October 20th, 2011, as a Pan-African who had the best interests of the continent at heart. Gaddafi had a vision and strong belief of uniting Africans, Sultan Kakuba, a political scientist at Kayambogo University in Uganda, told interviewers. He believed a united Africa would speak with one voice at international fora such as the United Nations and manage to bargain and be seen as an equal partner. Kakuba claimed Gaddafi was seen as an enemy of Western countries because of his longing for a United States of Africa, which he pushed for many years, hoping one day to have a unified African government. Gaddafi believed this was the only way for Africa could develop without Western interference, he said. Mustafa Mehta, a Johannesburg-based researcher, said he equally believes Gaddafi was killed because of his objection to Western interference in African affairs. I think Gaddafi was murdered for standing up to the West and for trying to promote very progressive ideas for Africa, which the West don't like. They want a forever dependent Africa, Mehta said. In speeches, Gaddafi often outlined his plan to create a new united Africa with its own currency, an army to defend the continent, and a single passport. He wanted to introduce a gold dinar to back African currencies, thus freeing them from the dollar standard. Gaddafi also longed to protect Africa's natural resources from what he referred to as Western looters.
Go Gaddafi.
Hillary killed him. Despite being a darling of most African countries, a record of human rights abuses and corruption in his own country turned many Libyans against Gaddafi. And when the winds of 2011 Arab Spring reached Libya, people held mass protests against him, Western armies, an opportunity to move in. Regime change time.
And then we get to pick the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
Jasset, an executive member of the Johannesburg-based think tank Media Review Network, said that Gaddafi's support for anti-colonial struggles, especially the military and financial support provided to South Africa's liberation movements, endeared him to all who opposed to white minority rule. Being at odds with the dominant Western worldview saw him targeted for what they perceived as supporting terrorism, said Jasset. Despite being seen as a Pan-African who sought African unity, Gaddafi was also accused of backing notorious rebel groups in Libya and Sierra Leone, among others. As much as he was despised by the West, particularly France, Italy, Britain, and America, he was also viewed as a threat to some African regimes, Jasset said. He said this explains why organs of the continent, such as the African Union, looked on without a whimper of protest in 2011 when Western armies were pummeling Libya with bombs. Most academics who spoke to Anadolu Agency argued that the March 19, 2011 NATO-led military intervention in Libya was unjustifiable because it plunged the country into total chaos. The Western invasion, which culminated in the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, is responsible for what is currently prevailing in Libya, said Mehta. Kakuba agreed that Western countries should have left the African Union to resolve the situation in Libya, giving the continental body an opportunity to solve an African problem. The invasion of Libya created a scenario in which Africans cannot solve their own problems. The West should have left the African Union to resolve the crisis in Libya, he said.
Stop sticking our noses in other people's fucking business.
The people have been telling us for
Ever.
80 years now. Jasset faulted some African countries, saying they let down Libya by voting with the UN Security Council in their resolution to bomb Libya. He said South Africa also marred its reputation for failing to intervene and prevent the destruction of an ally. Jasset said that South Africa had the rest of the continent responsibility for allowing former colonizers to triumphantly dismember a leading and successful Libya. On March 17, 2011, South Africa, a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, voted for Resolution 1973, which authorized military intervention in Libya, allowing a NATO-led coalition to conduct fierce airstrikes against Gaddafi's forces. However, the country later condemned the bombing, saying NATO forces had distorted the mandate of the resolution by trying to topple Gaddafi instead of remaining neutral and protecting civilians. The African Union also expressed reservations over the NATO bombings. Gaddafi's death led to nearly a decade of civil war.